Hello and welcome to Sports by Compian. My name, of course, is Stephen Compian, and I'm joined here by the man himself. Dan Gill is here amongst us to talk some wild card football, other things as well, college football. Dan, what's going on over there, buddy?
Great weekend with the Packers win. Always good to stick it to the Cowboys. But also I realized my green sleeves are blending in with my backdrop, so it looks like I just have floating hands.
Yay! Rocking the Rockford Ravens cutoff. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. Because if you don't, we'll send you an email about how you should love it. And, you better read it. Anyway, people, we are going to be covering, of course, the wild card weekend that was. Lots of blowouts. And then we're going to hop into briefly a little bit of college football. A little bit about the national championship that was and some coaching changes going on, Dan. Diane, some new coaching changes happening, as well as NFL coaching changes happening. It's all these changes. Black Monday came and went. Nobody really caught the axe, but they've been catching the axe ever since. So anyway, we're going to hop on into it and get you folks caught up about what's been happening out there in the sports world, because you may or may not have been paying attention. No worries. We got you. So first game that took place was the Browns traveling to Texas to take on the Texans. Let me tell you, man, it seems like the Texans were the saving grace of Texas this weekend, or the past 2 weekends, because they've had a rough go of it lately, Texas. But luckily, C.J. Stroud, the moment was not too big for him. Absolutely balled out in this game, Dan. There's no other way to describe it. Almost perfect passer rating. Missed Nico Collins on a wide open shot, but other than that, he was pretty amazing all day long. Nico Collins was amazing. The Texans defense was just absolutely shutting down Joe Flacco after a couple of early touchdowns. And this turned into a quick blowout, Dan. It was close at first, and then it just, wasn't close.
Yeah. I was expecting this game to be much closer. I think we all kind of had a consensus on the Browns, but
I took the Texans.
I thought you flipped, but whatever.
I might have.
Either way. I didn't, I'm not going to sit here and deny it, because we've been very big Houston supporters this year. C.J. Stroud's really been progressing very well throughout the year. So this doesn't come as a shock. He had a big game the week prior to get his team into the playoffs with a win over Indy. So, it's kind of almost his second week of playoffs because of that. And, I think I was just a little more taken back by the Browns dropped off in a way, because they've looked really well down the stretch, not really including that last week of the season where they benched a lot of people, but, strong win over the Jets. They had a win over the Houston like 3 weeks ago. So C.J. Stroud wasn't in the game, but still, I expected it to be much closer than a 30-point win. But good on them. I'm excited for this matchup against the Ravens, because it is not the same Houston team that faced them in Week 1. And we'll get into this on Pick'em a little more, but I still think Ravens. But this Houston team could get very interesting pretty fast.
Absolutely. They are the darlings of the NFL right now, the Cinderella story, if you will, which took out the other Cinderella story, which was the Browns. And yeah, this Texans team is just absolutely balling out right now. It's going to be hard to stop them. Whoever's going to have to do it. They do have to travel to Baltimore, so that's going to be tough. But we'll get into that more later in the pick'ems. Joe Flacco, his fun story comes to an end. Was looking okay in those first half. And then, as you mentioned, just completely got out of control on him in the second half. 2 very costly pick sixes. The second one kind of sealed the game pretty much. And, the Texans, Myles Garrett was pretty much nowhere to be found throughout the game. I think Laramie Tunsil did a great job of shutting him down despite an injury during a special teams play. He comes back, Mr. Bong Rip himself, came back and absolutely shut down Myles Garrett, sorry. So, yeah, huge game for the Texans. They're looking dangerous, Dan.
Yeah, and, the one thing I like is we saw it in Indy, we saw it in this game here. Like, they're not afraid to take that deep shot. If you let their receivers get on the backside, like, they will go for it. They had the 76-yarder to Jordan. So, I like that they're, with a young QB, they're not afraid to stretch the field. And if you don't have anybody over top keeping them honest, they're going to abuse that all day.
Absolutely. And the tight end had an amazing play in this game. Outran everybody, doubled his production, one of his absolutely his best game. And so, yeah, huge win for the Texans. They're going to have to keep it up, though. They're going to have to play amazing to beat the Ravens. We'll get into that later. Moving on to the fourth coldest game in NFL history, Dan. There was pictures of beers being frozen. There was, of course, the one maniac who wants to take off his shirt and show everybody how tough he is in the stands. A couple people with I wish it was colder signs, although we know in their hearts they did not wish it was colder because that game was cold as balls. Patrick Mahomes breaks his helmet in this game. Probably the only manly thing he did all day because I'm officially on the Patrick Mahomes hate train, Dan. This guy, every hit he takes, the dude has his hands up in the air looking for a penalty. It's pathetic, Dan. Pathetic.
You know what I read? Allegedly, they should have been flagged when he broke his helmet, or not really broke his helmet, when they changed his helmet, because anytime you have to replace a piece of equipment because it broke, you should be charged a timeout, but at that time they had no timeouts. So it should have been charged a flag because, in essence, we're trying to call a timeout with none, but instead the refs just let them walk over. It wasn't going to change the game, but just an interesting point that I read. Again, we talked about this offline on Saturday night. Harrison Butker just kept them in that game. He had 4 field goals. Another big game by him to kind of take care of business.
Yeah.
This Dolphins team came in banged up, not making excuses for them, but they were banged up. They did get some pieces back, but they weren't. There's no way they were ready for this game, especially with how they looked against Buffalo the week before. I didn't think they were going to be very prepared.
They looked miserable out there, man. They had a quick shot to Tua Tagovailoa after the very first touchdown that the Chiefs drove it down there. Shout out to Rashid White. Huge game out of him. Rashid White, right? Am I messing that up? I definitely am. Rashid Rice. I'm sorry. Sorry, Rice. Yeah. Huge game out of him. The rookie was just all over the place. They could not contain him. Rutgers guy, right? No, I'm thinking of Pacheco's.
No, he's SMU. He's SMU.
He's SMU. Okay, so death penalty school itself. But anyway, huge game out of him. Had that early touchdown, and like I said, they flashed Tua Tagovailoa on the sidelines. Dude just completely curled up in his little bundle. You could barely see his little eyes pointing out. He did not want to play football that day, Dan. He just did not want to be there, and it showed. Tyreek Hill had a nice touchdown in this game. Other than that, the Miami offense was completely non-existent. Both running backs absolutely shut down. This Chiefs defense is scary, man. They are playing lights out right now. Despite the offense stalling out, mostly getting field goals throughout the day, it was no problem. They basically could have won with just one of Harrison's field goals. Like I said, just pretty poor performance out of the Dolphins. Rough collapse to their season to end out the year. Not great overall. I think they're searching for some answers. Definitely were banged up in this game, but that's no excuse. I think the Chiefs were banged up too. I mean, they didn't have Tooney out there. It's so surprising they managed to win without him. But anyway, win for the Chiefs. Fuck Patrick Mahomes. He's a whiner. You have anything to say about this game besides that?
No, I mean, like we've been saying, it's not the same Chiefs offense that we've seen the last couple of years. And I got the matchup I was hoping for with them going to Buffalo. So can't wait for that one.
Absolutely. Well, moving on to the game that you were referring to earlier. 49-32, Dan, and this score is a little bit misleading for how this game went because, 48, sorry. The Packers just came out firing. Cowboys had no answers on offense. A couple costly interceptions by Dak Prescott, including a pick six by your boy Savage. They look dangerous. Aaron Jones just got 3 touchdowns and tied the franchise record for most touchdowns in a game. Is that correct? Or broke it?
Broke it for playoffs.
Broke it for playoffs. So good for him. Everyone mentioned he is the Cowboys killer, and boy, he showed it in this game. Ran very well. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. That Cowboys defense, who's looked pretty decent all year round, just with nowhere to be found. Michael Parsons, nowhere to be found on the field.
I think he got hurt in the game because he came in and they left Jones in the backfield for a chip block for extra support. And I mean, he nailed him right in the midsection, and he immediately went off the field. So I don't know if there was like a rib issue or something that he got, but I mean, he took a good lick from on the block. But it was just their secondary was just having the hardest time track what their receivers were doing. I mean, that Luke Musgrave touchdown, there was no one within 25 yards of him.
Crazy.
They ran like almost a double pattern across the field, and Musgrave stayed high, and the linebacker stayed low instead of going up with him, and two guys essentially covered the inside slant and left him. And then, by the time they caught it, the safety is running from 25 yards away trying to run him down. So, a lot of great motions, a lot of good schemes for them. But, like I said, like Taylor said, we got a lot of key pieces back this week, staying healthy. Now curious to see what happens to Jair because he got hurt towards the end of the game. I think they kept him out because they were up by so much at that point.
The backup quarterback in this game.
Yeah, we did. And then, I think Kingsley, he got hurt and he's doubtful, but we might be getting AJ Dillon back. So that could be a huge bonus to have AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones in the backfield together. So kind of got to wait and see. But Jordan Love over the last 9 weeks has looked phenomenal. I think he's quieted down a lot of people that really questioned if he was going to be able to be their quarterback. I love it. It's it's just good.
It was a massive win. They just absolutely dismantled the Cowboys. I do have people in my family who were very, very upset about this, Dan. But what are you going to do? Your team just didn't show up. The Cowboys appear to be cursed when it comes to the playoffs. I think McCarthy is 0-3 now in the playoffs with the Cowboys.
Mm.
Not a good look, Mike. Not a good look right now. He's having a rough go.
And I mean, there's talks on whether or not he's going to come back.
Yeah.
Now,
which is kind of crazy, man. With as many games as he's won and gotten to the playoffs 3 years in a row, I mean, I guess it makes sense because he's not getting the job done in the playoffs, but it's just crazy the era of NFL we're in now.
But at the same time, it's kind of, they were talking about it during the game and after the game on Sunday Night Football. That was, you would have to be so confident to think that you're going to get Bill Belichick to fire McCarthy.
Yeah.
And Greg Olson during the game said, he's like, you sit there and you have to ask yourself this question. And I agree with it. He goes, if you fired McCarthy today, is the team going to want him tomorrow? And if the answer is yes, then you want to keep him because clearly there is a commodity and a high value in this man. So the fact that you're just going to let him walk out the door is foolish. So, I get it. It's Dallas. I get it's got this stigma, this image of like, we're supposed to be the cream of the crop every year. But, at the same time, having consistent change and turnover, you're not going to build any culture there. So.
Yeah. Like we mentioned, Dak Prescott not great at all in this first half. Completely dropped the ball and put them in a terrible position for the second half. But you got to put it on the defense overall for this game. Some garbage time touchdowns by the Cowboys. Jake Ferguson with a hat trick. Good for him. Didn't even celebrate on his third touchdown. That's how bad it was, Dan. It was just a rough day at the office for the Cowboys. They kept on flashing to different Cowboys fans throughout the stands. Devastated, confused, shocked was the way I'd probably describe them.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to Matthew Stafford coming back on home to the Detroit Lions, who were ever so happy to see him and welcomed him with open arms and plenty of cheers. Just kidding. They booed him on his way onto the field. This game was hot in the first half. It was the only wild card game this week that was actually close. Him and Jared Goff exchanged blows in the first half. Both of them calmed down in the second half. But overall, Stafford got banged up, dude. The dude was like from the very beginning, like messed up his hand, blood all over. They're trying to calm down the swelling, and then that hit. I don't know if you saw it, Dan, but the dude had his eyes rolled up in his hand into his head at one point.
Well, that, and I think also because you saw him holding his arm on the same hit, it looked like whoever the lineman was stepped on his shoulder when he was trying to get over him. So, I mean, yeah, he was just.
Hey, where's the roughing the passer call for him, huh? You know, geez. I'm just saying, if we're going to be throwing it every 2 seconds, maybe we'll just throw it for this guy too.
Yeah, but, he just got really banged up. But, all in all, this is a great game. I kind of thought the Rams have been playing exceptionally well lately heading into this, so that's why I took them. But they didn't disappoint. 1-point loss, not a bad thing to do. But, good on the Lions. That place is rolling. We had all mentioned that, no one knew what kind of atmosphere to expect walking into there. And, it plays a large part in the tempo of your team. Because if, you walk in that building and on kickoff, that crowd is so behind you, it gives you the juice. So, I think they played into it well. They really did a great job. Curious to see what next week is going to look like. But, good. I don't want to say good for the Lions, but, I guess getting your first playoff win in 32 years isn't the worst thing in the world.
Wow, what a hater. I'll say good for the Lions, man. Good for them. They had season ticket holder, this like very old man who apparently has been watching it like 66
I think
years. I don't know.
Yeah, they said he had 60 season tickets for 66 years, and he was at the last Lions championship game.
That's crazy. Well, good for him and all Lions fans in general. They were all ecstatic. Many cheers, even some tears of joy. Martin Brown played really well, had that securing catch to close it out with his blue hair. Did you see the dude's blue hair at the end of that? That was tight.
You want to get it?
He was trying to convince some of his teammates to go along with it. I don't think Jared was very convinced. But Jared had himself a good game, a good revenge game against the Rams. They definitely stalled in that second half, only putting up 3 points, but it was enough to get the job done. Got some crucial first downs. The run game was working well. They had Montgomery going off, as opposed to the Rams, who couldn't really get it going on the ground. So I think that might have been the difference there. Puka Nacua looked properly upset, didn't even shake hands, ran off the field, which a lot of people were like, oh, this poor sportsmanship. You know what I say to those people? You haven't been in a position where you just lost a heartbreaking loss, so you have nowhere to talk. Because, I've been there, man. And sometimes you just don't fucking want to talk to anybody. You just lost a huge game. And you know what, man? You just don't want to talk to anyone. I think that's okay. I think it's a little overblown, this whole, we got to be good sportsmen all the time. Yeah, send me a fucking email about it, losers, all right? Try to go out there and do some athletics, and then you tell me how you feel after a huge loss. So, yeah. Big win for the Lions. They sent the Rams home, a very hot team, as Dan mentioned. So, solid win for them now. And they will be hosting a team here that we'll get to in just a moment, Dan. But before we do, we'll hop to a game that got postponed because New York was covered in snow. Absolutely covered in snow. Fans were literally digging their seats out of the snow to sit down in them. That's some hardcore fans right there, I gotta say, man. Even the Chiefs fans all showing up. That was hardcore, dude. I would not have wanted to go to that kind of game. I was at the game in Lambeau, and that was cold enough for me.
It was 40.
Oh, that one was? Okay.
No.
Well, I guess that.
Well, the Lambeau one.
It was not 40. It felt like fucking way colder than that. Either way.
I mean, it was 40 without the wind, but.
Either way, that was brutal. That's about as cold as I ever want to get in a football game. It's wild. It's hard to enjoy it when it's that cold. So shout out to these Bills fans and Chiefs fans who showed up to support their team. Good for them because it wasn't easy. And anyway, temperature aside, Bills played absolutely great. They completely dominated in the first half. Steelers came roaring back in the second. Too little, too late. Josh Allen was a beautiful run. Watching back that play, there were just so many people in the Steelers who didn't look like they wanted to tackle him, and therefore he didn't get tackled.
Here's the thing. That was kind of my gripe all weekend watching, all the games.
Yeah.
I was talking with my dad about it, and, and it was funny because Ray Lewis talked about it, too, on the Mancast, that, people have horrible angles, and then my gripe is everybody wants to shoulder tackle. No one actually wraps. shoulder hits are great in hockey, not in football. Like you're not gonna. I'm sorry. Like if you're a 200-pound or 100 and some pound secondary guy, you're not going to shoulder check a 250-pound guy over. Like you're just not.
It's not going to happen.
You're going to bounce off him, and he's going to keep going. Like you need to make wrap tackles, and that's like, even when they try to wrap them, they get so far outside, and they want this one-arm sling tackle, and they miss them half the time anyway too. Because there was a play in that game that, I mean, the Steelers timed it so well. They got the linebacker off the edge, had Josh Allen dead to rights. Should have sacked him, 5 yards loss. Nope. He tries to hip sling Josh Allen to the ground, and said Josh Allen steps through for a first down run. Not the touchdown run. It was a different one. But but there was at least 2 tackles on that touchdown run that should have brought him down, and he didn't.
Absolutely terrible defense all around this weekend, I think some would say. We'll get to the Eagles game in a minute where they just decide not to tackle. But I think Ray Lewis put it well. Like, people just don't want to run either. Like, aside from the shoulder tackles, guys are just not running, dude. Like, the ball's in play. It's the playoffs, dude. What are you doing? These guys are jogging. They're waiting for their teammate to make the tackle. And when he doesn't, they're like, oh, shit, I guess I got to try to make this tackle. Too late, buddy. The dude's down the field. What are you doing?
I feel like gang tackling isn't a thing anymore.
No, apparently not. It's lazy defenders all weekend long. Pretty embarrassing. Even the touchdown that sealed the game to a guy I'd never heard of, this small little skinny Bills receiver danced through five Steelers to score that game-sealing touchdown. Like, what is going on? Are you guys not the steel curtain? Our ancestors would be embarrassed for you.
That one was Minka Fitzpatrick, who's a phenomenal defender, tackled. He went high and tried to pull him over by his shoulder pads, and you're just not gonna do that.
That aside, he's even slowing him down. There was points where that guy's feet were completely stopped. Where are the rest of the Steelers defenders? Why are you not hustling to the ball to go make a tackle? What's going on here? Piss poor tackling all weekend long, absolutely. But not taking anything away from the Bills. I think a lot of people thought they were going to win this game, and they sure as heck did. They got a heck of a test against them and the Chiefs. And this may shock you, Dan. Absolutely picking the Bills for this one. I definitely want them to win. I'm picking them with my heart. I don't know if they're going to win, but I'm picking them with my heart. I absolutely hope they knock out Mr. Crybaby himself.
I mean, look, the Bills beat him once this year in Kansas City. And I know we'll get into this on Pick'em, but I wanted this matchup. I don't think they will fare well in Buffalo. I get that they're a cold weather team too. I just don't think they'll fare in Buffalo.
I hope not. I hope they get stomped, and we can see the Crybaby do some crying as he loses, because screw that guy. But yeah, shout out Bills, man. They get the job done. Josh Allen looked good, does just enough to win. Steelers did not look great. Mason Rudolph didn't look terrible, but also didn't get enough done.
I mean, but I think he played himself into competing for the starting job next year.
Who?
Rudolph.
Oh, yeah. I would say so. I mean, Kenny Pickett's been healthy these last 3 or 4 weeks, and they've gone with Rudolph. Exactly.
Yeah, so
I would agree.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who breaks camp with them next year.
But is his contract up as a backup over there, or did they re-sign him at some point? They drafted him forever ago.
They did. I don't remember how much he has left on his contract.
You know who probably will not be back for the Steelers is Mr. Trubisky himself, who may have finally played himself. If not out of the league, Dan, he's probably going to be a backup somewhere. Dude looked terrible all year.
I think this was his last year on his contract, yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to have to re-sign him. We'll see what happens there. There's a couple backup guys, so we'll see what happens during this offseason.
I think it would be in his best interest to go back to Pittsburgh. Not saying he wouldn't do well somewhere else, but I think knowing that you're going to play into a starting position, that might be his most attractive spot.
Agreed.
Unless Pittsburgh goes after someone else.
Yeah, which they could. Who knows what will happen? I think Mike Tomlin walked off in the middle of his press conference when some reporter was bringing up his contract, and he just walked off. Baller move. Baller move. I love it. Screw these reporters, dude. Like, the dude just lost a playoff game. Leave him alone.
Not
these
the time
reporters, Matt. These reporters, and I'm going to get to it in this Bucks game. The media in general, dude, you guys need to clean up your act sometimes. Because we're going to get to it in the college football game, but man, they were all over poor Penix in that national championship game. Like, literally filmed him from the minute the game was over till he's like walking into the sidelines, towel over his head. Dude, at the end of the day, this is a 20, 21-year-old kid, like, who just lost the biggest game of his life. Leave him the fuck alone. I don't want to see that. What fans are like, oh, he's crying. Oh, this is great. I love this. This is great television. Like, fuck off. And, like, getting into this Bucks game, we're going to get into all the details, but to end it, Travis Kelce, like Jason Kelce, I'm sorry. I think a lot of people knew this was his last game. He was a little emotional on the sidelines there. I don't need you filming. I don't need you even filming him the whole time. I don't need that. As a Bucks fan, I respected the guy, the way he played. Nothing against Jason Kelce. I've always liked that guy. Did not need you guys absolutely filming him the whole time. Like, fuck off with this shit, media. Find something else to film. Film the winners. Film like fuck, dude. It's embarrassing, Dan, is what it is.
Now, did you watch the pregame show?
I did not. I was involved in a rugby clinic. Which, if you're out there in Rockford, we got one more coming up, people. Sports Factory off of Madison. Come learn some high school rugby. It's going to be a good time.
So I was watching the pregame show, and they had the talk desk, and they were actually at the stadium in Tampa, so they had the fans around them, and an all-time sign was up. Someone had a sign that said, Sirianni eats plant-based cheesesteaks. So I was like, let's go.
Hopping into that game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, baby. Take care of business at home. Baker looks fired up throughout this whole game. We would have scored for the first time on an opening drive if Kate Ogden could catch a ball. Though we had more drops than any other team has had in the playoffs since 2006, Dan. Piles of drop balls. Mike Evans had two very uncharacteristic drops. Just was not looking like himself.
And I think that was, quite honestly, the most concerning part of your guys' play.
Yeah.
Was the amount of drops that you guys had. But all in all, I think you guys look great.
Overall, we looked great. Not taking anything away from the boys. Absolutely amazing win. It got a little hairy there when it was 9-16. But then, you know what? Defense comes through strong with a beautiful safety, which was caused by Kalesh Canty flushing Jalen out into the end zone. Dan, at this point, throw the ball away, Jalen. Throw the ball away. You're in the end zone, sir. But Anthony Nelson made him pay for not getting rid of that ball and caused the safety, which turned the whole game. The game was over after that because they punted it away. Bucks score. Eagles still can't do anything with the ball. Bucks score again. And yeah, you mentioned Ray Lewis calling out defenses. Man, he was all over this Eagles defense. He was like, they're not playing as a unit. They're all trying to make individual plays. Pathetic. And on the Palmer touchdown, dude, love to see Palmer finally doing something. But that missed tackle by the safety, that was so fucking embarrassing. But I don't know who was more embarrassing for, him or 33, who was chasing down Palmer, jogging. And then whenever he misses the tackle, all he could do is pretty much jump over the other safety because he's beat. And, you know, the linebacker was sure as fuck not going to catch a wide receiver. So easy touchdown for Palmer all day. These Eagles were tackling like shit, Dan. They did not deserve to win this. They were tackling like absolute garbage throughout the whole game. Tompkins was just running through them. Like, those points where, like, people look like they were well down, and they would just still somehow break it. Baker Mayfield was planting people on their face with stiff arms. Like, you guys should be so embarrassed about this. Like, Christ. Bradbury, terrible game out of Bradbury. Oh, my God. He's the one who initially missed a tackle on Palmer. Just shit game out of him.
Yeah, I mean, this defense is struggling. I mean, the whole team has struggled. Like, let's just be honest. They've lost now 6 of their last 7.
Absolutely.
But in that Arizona game that we went to, their secondary was just horrible. They were playing extremely soft. Yeah. They were just letting everything get in over the middle. And, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, you're just spamming slants at this point, and you're going to be fine. And, Tampa exposed them with all these passes over the middle. I mean, Christ almighty. Cade just destroyed them over the middle. Like they couldn't stop
despite his like 3 drops, he still had a pretty good game because he was just open the whole game apparently.
Yeah, you just leave a big body tight end up on them like that, and they weren't stopping it. And it kind of set the tone, and then opens up, for White to get his carries in. But
yeah, another guy who like people like had him in the backfield, and he would like break like 4 tackles and go pick up like a couple yards. So it was just like, guys, do you want to play football today? That's okay. Go home. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean at that point, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Philly. I know some people are calling for Sirianni's head.
Many people are.
Some people want it to be even further, that more people are no longer on the team. I don't know if Philly is just going to go full rebuild or what.
It's crazy that they won a Super Bowl, made it to the playoffs, and there's this much head calling going on. That's the era of the NFL we're in now.
I mean, they're 11-6. Like,
they completely collapsed at the end of the season. Like, they're going over the records, and like since the start, Bucks were 5-1, and they were 1-5 ever since the very beginning of the season. So, just an absolute collapse. And I guess you do have to put that on the head coach. But man, this guy led you to the Super Bowl and then the playoffs the next year. Like maybe some deep refs over there, but whatever. Fire him if you want to. I don't care.
I mean, it's tough when they switch defensive coordinators in the middle of the year.
Shocked that Mac Patricia with his magical pencil wasn't able to get it done. Shocked.
No, not at all. But it's curious. I'm curious. I think you could see personnel move there, not necessarily that coach, but he might get a new staff. We'll see what happens there. But again, no excuses. But it doesn't help that they were so banged up. They had a lot of key pieces, not at 100, not in at all.
I don't know, man. Everyone's banged up at this point of the year.
Well, no,
it's not a good excuse.
No,
I hear you.
I'm not saying excuses, but
I hear you.
When you're left with third stringers, you got to know, when you're getting deep in your reserves, you got to know how to utilize your people, and they just didn't know what to do.
Like Ray Lewis says, they're not running to the ball. Like he even pointed out a play on the Tampa defense where like they threw a small short pass, and the corner makes his tackle, but there was like 5 other red jerseys all flow into the ball as well. And like that's playoff football. That's guys who actually want to play. This Bucks defense came to play today last night. It was freaking amazing. The blitz was coming all day. Jalen Hurts had no idea who was coming and who wasn't, and he just looked uncomfortable the entire game. The blitzes actually worked, which they don't always work for the Buccaneers, but like he had various passes where there was a guy right in his face as he's getting rid of it, and as a result, it was a bad pass. Peyton Manning described it well. Why don't you just keep on throwing it to Devontae Smith? He looked at the only Eagle out there who actually wanted to play. You should have just kept on throwing it to him. But hey, I'm fine that they didn't.
Yeah. Fun fact, Green Bay was the only road team to win this week.
Huh. How about that? That's interesting. But yeah, like I don't even know. Like even that last touchdown the Bucks got, like I thought like it was like Baker just barely got rid of it, and I thought it was going to Evans, and it was like way far away from him, and then whoa, nope, going to Godwin touchdown. I was like, whoa, okay, sweet, that's game. So shout out the entire Bucks team, man. They did show up when they needed to. Love to see it. Godwin was 2.5 yards away from hitting my parlay, Dan. It's tragic, dude. Tragic. But he was kind of a bit of a ghost as he usually is until he's not. That's kind of how it goes with Godwin. Bruce Arians described it well. Both him and Evans are the most unselfish wide receivers maybe in the whole NFL. As he put it, the most unselfish wide receivers he's ever coached. So it's huge. It's awesome. Love to see it. Bucks are rolling. Baker's baking. We're getting some nice Triscuits out of the whole thing.
Triscuits.
They got a test coming up going to Detroit, though. All the sports analysts are already writing us off, which is a huge shocker, Dan. Shocking to me.
I mean, they're writing the Packers off again. But you think we can finally get a Baker commercial?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm sure some Tampa people have already picked him up. But I would like to see Baker back in the spotlight of some commercials. Shout out Good Sports. He brought up a couple good things, but like it was funny to see the tush push officially shut down.
Wow.
On that 2-point conversion in the last game. KJ Britt flies over the top and pulls out Jalen Hurts. People are like, oh, it was a face mask. No, it wasn't. Get out of here.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No, it's not. He grabbed him. Hey, man, you're going in there helmet first. What do you expect? He's going to grab you. Anyway, not going to get it. Not going to get into it. Not a penalty. They stopped him. KJ Britt balled out.
I don't think it was going to change anything, but
it was absolutely not. They got destroyed. But yeah, KJ Britt absolutely stopped that over the top. Vita Vea and Shadow Gaines just straight up sacrificed his body. You could see him at the very bottom of the pile, just flattened himself underneath Kelsey. And he was rewarded later on with a sack. So good game for Gaines. Shout out Buccaneers. Huge win for us. Moving on, Dan, to some college football, as they say. So the Washington Huskies fell victim to a dominant Michigan Wolverines run game. I didn't catch all of this game. I forget what I was doing. Some kind of meeting or something. Anyway, so Michigan Wolverines just took care of business in the run game mostly. J.J. McCarthy pulled off a national championship without throwing a touchdown pass, without throwing over 150 yards. So that's pretty interesting. But they made Michael Penix look human, or look not that great, at least for the first time all year that we've seen, really.
So, I mean, I actually watched this game. Yeah, I mean, he had 2 costly interceptions, one early in the third quarter, one late in the fourth. Because he threw for 255 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you really take out those 2 interceptions, which obviously matter, it wasn't a bad day for him. And it was really a competitive game for the majority of it. Michigan was up 17-10 at half. And honestly, it was 20-13 at the end of the third quarter. So it was still within reaching distance. But the fourth quarter is just where it got away from them. 14 unanswered in the fourth quarter for Michigan sealed the deal. Penix clearly got injured in that game with what appeared to be a rib injury because he took some hits. You saw him at the end of the game walking off the field, holding his side. So I think it'll be interesting to see there. But, he'll
be all right.
I think it was a good job. Like I said, all in all, aside from the fourth quarter, it was extremely close to what I was hoping it would be. And just some costly unforced errors there, or some forced errors there that really, kind of killed the momentum on Washington's side for Michigan. And, Harbaugh finally gets his national championship. I believe it was like the first national championship for Michigan since 1997, if I remember correctly. So, they finally got that one off their back. But, I would like to say I'm curious to see what Washington will do next year, but we'll get into something a little bit later to why that now has changed. But, again, I love the fact that the Pac-12 sent a team to the national championship, and they're going to cease to exist in like 2 years.
It's ridiculous. I watched a whole long YouTube video about their destruction. They brought it on themselves, Dan.
They did. But, all in all, I think it was a good sign. Washington really hung with them. And, someone other than the SEC finally won a national championship.
Love to see it.
I think they said it was like the first time in like 18 years. Or not 18 years.
It sounds like it, but my question is, with Georgia out, what would they have been like in this playoff? I think we're going to see something. We're going to see a much more interesting college football coming up here with 12 teams getting in.
Sorry, not 18 years, since 2018. I apologize. That a non-SEC team won, which was when Clemson won in 2018 with.
Okay. ACC.
ACC. So I think it might be what it might have been was the first time in 18 years that an SEC team wasn't in the finals.
Okay.
I think that's what it might have been.
Okay.
But Georgia, this is a prime example of what could an expanded playoff have done. If we go with the model I think they should do, Georgia would have had to get an at-large bid because I think you win your conference and you're in. It helps prevent everybody from colliding into one conference. They actually took the list of the top 25 teams or top 15 teams or something like that, and showed where everybody was moving to or where they currently are. And Florida State was the only team in that top 15 that would have not been in the SEC or the Big Ten. So basically, we're turning it into a two-conference system at this point.
Looks like it. Yeah, not great for college football. It seems like some bad changes coming, but it's all greed. It's all money, Dan. Turns out it ruins a lot of things.
I mean, it is. I think if they put the value into winning your conference again, it could go places. Huskies next year will be in the Big Ten with Michigan, so that'll be interesting to see that one get run back.
Yeah.
But, I think this is a whole separate video for us to go down. But, it's I don't get how you can, just to me is like, I get the level of play is different in every conference. But, it's like, let's say you take the worst division team in the NFL, and the year that the Seahawks went, was it 7-9 and beat the Saints with the Beastquake?
Yep.
It's like, imagine the NFL being like, you got a losing record, you're not the best team left. We're gonna have you sit out even though you won your division.
Yeah.
We're gonna give it to now the fourth highest wild card team. Like, no. So I think they need to put some value into winning your conference. I lost faith in that the year that I believe it was Penn State and Wisconsin squared off in the Big Ten title game, and Ohio State went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's like how can you not I can understand if you maybe lost your conference game. I don't necessarily agree with that, but at least if you lost your conference game, but they weren't even in it. So how can you say that they're the better team of a team that couldn't even play for their conference title? So, I think you have 10 conferences right now as it stands. 1 through 10 are all conference winners. I don't care if you're the Sun Belt or you're the SEC. You win your conference you're in, and you have 2 at-large bids. Call it a day.
I don't know about that. There's some pretty bad conferences. Maybe some of these lower tier ones, maybe not, unless you're undefeated like Liberty was. Because you see what happened to Liberty. They got absolutely demolished by when it came to playing a real team. So I don't know if I fully agree with that, but I would say there's definitely should be more value in winning your conference.
But I think it'll change recruiting though. If it
would. That's a good point. It would definitely change recruiting.
Because let's say if Liberty really lays heavy into it, or JMU, they really lay into the recruiting because they know that they're going to be the top of the crop in their conference, and for exposure, if you're a player, oh, we're going to be a playoff team every year. It's getting eyes on you.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess I would be open to that discussion. It is a little crazy how it is set up right now, where some of these smaller schools, it just seems like there's really no way for you to ever get better. How are you supposed to attract any big recruits because they're all going to bigger schools?
Yeah, you could go undefeated and get picked over a team with 2 losses. It makes no sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. That is definitely interesting. I think they'll have their chance though in this coming up playoff. They're going to let Liberty in. Liberty's going to be in a 12-man playoffs, so they'll get a chance to prove it.
Yeah.
Before we get into these coaching changes, Dan, we do have our non-sponsor sponsor today, which is 4Ocean. They are a cleanup project. I think they're a returning sponsor as well. Non-sponsor sponsor, that is. And they pretty much will pull a pound of plastic out of the ocean for every item you buy from them. So go check out their inventory. They got hats. They got cool cups. They got a picture of Dan, fishing in the ocean and pulling out plastic. Right, Dan? That was you out there, or was that just another guy who looked like you?
Oh, no, I think that was me.
That was you, right? Yeah, I thought so. So anyway, They got all kinds of really cool stuff. Go out, check out their website, 4Ocean Cleanup. Get the plastic out of the ocean, dude. I don't know if it's still a thing, but I'm pretty sure there's a big old plastics thing that's besides Texas floating around out there in the Pacific. Not great. Not good. Not what we need, Dan. We need the oceans to still be nice because I like the ocean. Do you like the ocean, Dan?
Always.
I love the ocean, dude. We need that shit. Don't let it just flip away from us, people. We need to support it. We need to get it cleaned up. Anyway, we're gonna hop into some coaching discussions here. Leading it off, Nick Saban goes ahead and retires. And now, all of the big coaching changes we're going to talk about, I respect this one the most, man. The guy's kind of going out on top. Like, yeah, it hasn't been the best last couple years for Alabama, but the dude just dominated college football for so long. And good for him that in his 70s, he's like, yeah, I'm set on this, dude. I'm going to go enjoy my life. I'm going to go do some other things now and enjoy this. Like, the other two we're about to get to, Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick, I don't really get why these guys aren't just retiring, man. If you're in your 70s, dude, it's kind of like I was talking about with some clients. Why are we letting people into the presidency who are in their 80s? Like, I mean, you could say it with our guy who's in there now. The dude doesn't even know what's going on. He looks like he's looking for a nap every 2 seconds. Why is this dude the leader of our country? Like, some of these old dudes need to fucking retire, okay? Go enjoy your life. Go enjoy the millions and millions of dollars in your bank account. Like, what are you doing, man? Why are you putting yourself through, like, hours and hours? Like, these coaches, dude, the amount of work they put in during the season and during the off season too, with recruiting.
I think it's even more in the off season in a way.
Yeah, it's absolute insanity, dude. Like, you're in your 70s. Go live your life. Like, some of these the old guard needs to start retiring, is what I'm saying, Dan. Let in the new guard. Let some people get some opportunities, dude, because it's crazy out here. But anyway, shout out Nick Saban. Absolute huge win for him. I think that's a win for him to retire like this and go out and enjoy his life there. He's going to be a legend in Alabama forever. Even with LSU, he's a heck of a coach. It's cool to see. Getting into the biggest, coach dismissal this year. Mutual parting, which whatever that means, man, I'll take that with a grain of salt.
I think it's the polite way of saying you got fired.
Yeah, 100%. And like the way Robert Kraft was talking, it seems like Bill Belichick's not done. He's 70 whatever and still wants to keep on coach football. I guess it's your passion. I guess it's what you want to do, man. But like, I don't know, go coach. Go coach like your little league team or something, dude.
But here's my thing though, and I think this is why he's going somewhere else. Is Brady got a Super Bowl without Belichick? I think until Belichick gets a Super Bowl without him, I don't think he'll feel content.
Which is crazy. I
stand behind that. Well, here's my thing.
I agree. That's probably what's going on. He definitely seems like he has an ego to him.
But did you know that if you took his record without Tom Brady, so pre-Brady, post-Brady, or when Brady was injured or suspended because of Deflategate, he has a losing record.
Yeah, I'm sure people have been talking to him about that too. And that weighs on him.
Yeah, so somebody was like, is he really that great of a coach?
It's been coming out, which is crazy to me. Coming out.
It's a wild conversation.
Of course he was.
Conversation.
I don't think he was a good GM. I definitely don't think he was a good GM, which I didn't understand those discussions of, maybe put him up in the office, maybe go have him be GM somewhere. Why? He's not good at being a GM.
He hasn't had a good last couple of years of drafts now. But I think that's his driving force, honestly, is that he wants to win a Super Bowl without Brady.
And he's also going on for that all-time win record. What is he, like 15, 17 games away?
He's not far off.
No.
And so, we talked about it before we came on air, but I had heard that he was down in Atlanta, which makes – I don't know. My one buddy's all about it. I was pushing for him to go to the Chargers, which Jim Harbaugh is apparently in discussions with them. But it's just because the Chargers are the most contending ready team. You have a strong quarterback in Herbert.
Yeah.
They have a not terrible defense. They need work, but it's not terrible. That I think he could fix them and get them to be competitive in that division. But to me, the Falcons makes no sense. They don't have a quarterback that they can trust. They're gonna have to go out and draft or sign someone. They would be better off signing somebody because here's the thing.
Yeah.
No offense to Belichick. Sure, he might have really helped develop Brady, but he couldn't develop Mac Jones. He couldn't develop Bailey Zappi. Couldn't develop Cunningham.
Jimmy Garoppolo. Jacoby Brissett.
So, I think he can't go into a situation where he needs to develop a quarterback. He needs a veteran quarterback that he can work with, and then he has a great defensive mind to make a defense work. I think even with all in all with the Patriots that we saw over the last couple of years since Brady left, their offense has not been good, but their defense has not been terrible.
Yeah.
And So I think that's where he needs to go, somewhere with a good QB presence. And Atlanta doesn't make sense to me.
Well, this is my counter argument to that. Is I would say, and as a Bucs fan, do not want to see him in the NFC South. Absolutely do not want to see that happen. But my argument would be that the Buccaneers were 7-9 when Brady came to us, and we want to do that with him. So, maybe you are just a couple pieces away. They do have all kinds of offensive talent on that team. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson's an absolute baller. There's pieces there. Even that defense has pieces. Jesse Bates, do not think he's the best safety in the NFC South by any means. Antoine Winfield all the way, but a very, very good safety. They have players.
What if they went out and got Kirk Cousins?
There you go. Kirk Cousins, Bill Belichick, go down to Atlanta. I think, I don't want to see this, but I do think they could. They're a couple pieces away. They're a game away from getting into the playoffs, and who knows once you're in the playoffs.
It's a whole different season.
It's a whole different season. So I don't think they're that far forsaken, as some people may have portrayed them to be.
And, that was going to kind of be my other point is, in a way, that Falcons make sense because not talking down about the NFC South, but let's just be real here. We saw how the season ended. There was 3 teams in it until the very last season or week of the season. So if you want to talk about a division that has an opportunity knocking across the board, it's that division.
For sure. Especially with Dennis Allen coming back to the Saints.
Yeah,
Fuck the Saints.
Yeah. Nobody is running away with that division, I think, anytime soon. So
I agreed.
It's the best one to be the most competitive in for him.
Agreed. No, I would agree with that. I do think there's something to it. So we'll see what happens. The other one is Pete Carroll, who apparently is staying in the office in Seattle, but hinted at if someone offers him a head coaching job, he's gonna take it. So I guess we'll see what happens there.
That one. I mean, I think if the Seahawks didn't make the playoffs last year, I think it happened last year. But I think the fact that they pulled it out with Geno Smith, I think Pete Carroll bought himself an extra year. Quite honestly, I don't see that going any different if they don't make it in last year with that front. Now, interesting thing going back to New England. They did hire their coach already, the next day, Gerard Mayo, their linebacker coach. Allegedly, it was in his contract that he was going to be the successor. That's why it happened so fast.
Wow.
So, amazing writing in a contract that nobody knew about for however long it's been.
Very interesting.
Because we were shocked. We were shocked that it happened so fast. I thought Mike Vrabel was going to go there.
Another huge coaching candidate.
Talk about a firing that makes 0 sense. Mike Vrabel.
I mean, it's been a rough 2 years down there in Tennessee, but that made no sense.
So well with no pieces when people are injured or whatever. He's done extremely well with them in a division that got young, that he could easily kind of take it over again. Or work with it. Levis, it isn't bad.
Nope.
So that just shocks me that they moved on from him. I'm curious to see where he goes. I've heard rumors of Dan Quinn going to Seattle to be their head coach, but Vrabel also makes sense up there to me. So I think it'll be interesting to see. Additionally, like we had mentioned the other week, once the playoffs settle, what teams got eliminated are going to get new coaches. So we've talked about Dallas. People throughout Philly. No one's team really stands out to me, though. They got eliminated. Do I think someone's in imminent danger of being fired? I know people have mixed feelings about Tomlin in Pittsburgh. I don't see Pittsburgh moving on from Tomlin. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. But, no one that's left in the playoffs, I think, if they lose, are they in jeopardy? So, interesting to see where a couple big names pop up. But, Vrabel makes 0 sense to me. He would be an interesting one in the Chargers.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see. I do think he got snuffed on that whole thing. It's kind of ridiculous he got fired. but he's another one who's out. I think Arthur Smith should just go somewhere and enjoy his millions of dollars he's probably going to inherit. He probably will get another offensive coordinating job somewhere, which is crazy because he ruined so many weapons down there. But he'll probably be back in the league somewhere. And the other one was a little surprised that Dennis Allen was retained, but I'm here for it as a Bucks fan. Absolutely, fuck the Saints. Who else caught the axe, Dan?
Well, Ron Rivera caught the axe.
Yeah, kind of saw that coming.
Well, I mean, they had announced it prior to the end of the season, but the Commanders did sign their new GM, who was the AGM of the 49ers. And apparently his top pick rumored to be top pick for their new coach is the Lions offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson.
Sure.
So,
a lot of people going after Ben Johnson this year.
Yeah, and then I know the Ravens, both of their offensive and defensive coordinators have been reached out to for interviews as well. So, kind of got to wait for the playoffs to end for a lot of these coordinators and assistant coaches to be able to be interviewed because they're still actively playing. Sure. So there's a lot of people that we're not even discussing that are going to start getting in the mix. Because the Raiders haven't officially signed anybody, even though the team is adamantly pushing for Antonio Pierce. Did you hear Max Crosby said that if they don't sign Pierce, he wants to get traded? Like,
I didn't know he was taking it to that extreme. I knew he was going to bat for Antonio Pierce.
No, that's what I've read. Is that he said if you don't sign Pierce, I want out. Which talk about that level of endorsement.
Man, at that point, your players love you. Like, what do you think in ownership? Just pay them.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly if you have a locker room behind a guy that much, it's hard to go against him.
100%. And I think these young coaches, like, there's something to be said about them. Ex-players, like, they get it. Like, you see how the Texans are playing for DeMeco Ryan down there. I mean, despite him being a defensive coach, apparently it's terrible for the NFL.
Well, and look at Dan Campbell, like another former player who's doing extremely well. So there's something to be said in a way with a former player, like you said. Now, I guess question for you: does Todd Bowles survive?
I 100% think so. I think he already has. He was already, I think, secured his spot when he got us into the playoffs. / when he kind of resurrected the team again. Dude, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand this whole coach carousel thing. I think it's bad for team morale. I think it's bad for team chemistry, winning long term. I don't like it. I like sticking with somebody for a while, letting them do their thing. Todd Bowles has his flaws, but the players play hard for him. They do like him ultimately. He's a very soft-spoken man, unlike myself, so I like that too. He's always seemed very even keel. He cracked one little smile last night. But overall, the man, I respect him. I think he's a good coach for us for sure.
Yeah, he worked behind a great coach in Bruce Arians, so definitely learned a lot there. I think he works well for your system.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I think people are playing hard for him. Dan, anything else to say to these fine people of Sports by Compian, which we just hit 180 subscribers. Thank you, people. Continue to like and subscribe to the show. We really appreciate your support. Also, watch it, please. Like when these videos come out, please continue to watch them, even if you're throwing it in the background and going about your day. We are more of a podcast than really a video type of podcast anyway. So throw us on in the background. We certainly will not take offense to it, and we would really appreciate more views because we work hard on these videos. At least Dan does. So we really would like it if you guys would continue to like and subscribe to our content. Please share it with your friends and enemies. Anything else to say to these fine people, Dan?
I really had something this morning and I forgot to write it down. It was pretty good. But I guess leave you with one parting piece. One of the top players in rugby is now pursuing an NFL career. He's 22.
I just heard about this in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. So
good luck, buddy.
Good luck, buddy. That's all I'm going to say.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be fucking hard, dude.
Hey, worst comes to worst, if it doesn't work out, he's already here and he can play MLR.
There we go. Bam. Which he probably will not. He'll probably go back to Europe, but he'll actually get paid. But either way, happy to see that. Good for him, man. I hope he makes it. What's the guy's name? Is he the Wales?
Yeah.
Welsh player.
Yeah.
Was he that really talented Welsh wing? The guy.
Yeah, it's the winger. Yeah.
Oh, that guy's really good. He's so fast and he's really young still too. So that's interesting. That'd be interesting if he can make it.
I mean, he'll be the first one in a while. I know the Eagles have a guy that is one of their linemen that used to play in the Super League back in the day. But yeah, you just have to wait and see what happens and see what happens.
We'll have to see what happens, man. There's still going to be a lot of coaching changes coming up, people. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay excited. NFL playoffs are going down. Division rounds coming up, baby.
And in a few more weeks, we got the UFL kicking off along with MLR and Six Nations.
It's all kicking off. There's always contact sports to talk about, people, and we will be covering it emphatically because that's what we do here at Sports by Compian. But for now, we're out of here.